She won most talkative in high school, and she has been running her mouth ever since. Welcome to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast with your host, Lisa Fisher.
Let me introduce you then that way. You said you're the mom who didn't know what she was doing, who started a podcast, and people have gone crazy for it. Because minimalism is something we all can incorporate in our life. I've interviewed Joshua Becker before, and he's kind of, if he's maybe the father of minimalism, maybe you're the mother, but you're not related, but you're not married. Okay, just so everybody understands. I'm just using the term loosely. So tell me, Diane, tell me about your life that made you think I have to adopt more of a minimalist lifestyle.
Yes. So there was actually a light bulb moment, as I like to say, when my husband and I were newly married. We were in our early 20s and we were searching for something in my parents' basement. I don't remember what it was. Long ago. However, we were down there and he looked at me, and to paraphrase him, he said, "Look at all of these things that are now in boxes that were once your dad's hard-earned working hours." And for some reason, up until that point, I mean, I was still very young, but I felt like I was just so wasteful with my money, and I had to have everything brand new, and I never liked to be seen in the same outfit more than once by anyone that I would come into contact with. I wasn't thoughtful. I wasn't intentional. And so when he brought that concept to my prefrontal cortex, the front of my mind, I was just like, oh my gosh, I have not been living the way that I probably should be. And I'm taking this money for granted. And my hours, time is the most precious resource that we have. And so it was really that moment that got the ball rolling into our marriage. And I don't even think we necessarily had a conversation at that point in time. It was just something that I started being more intentional with the way that I wanted to live. He was as well. And then we just kind of carried this into our whole relationship of just prioritizing experiences over things. And if we were going to buy things, to make sure that they were quality over quantity. So maybe you weren't going to have as many things in boxes because there wasn't an abundance of things we were spending our money on. The things that we buy were more intentional and maybe cost a little bit more. So yeah, I would just say that our entire relationship, we have had this theme of minimalism or intentional living woven throughout it. And then having kids, I mean, that was just something that we tried to carry on through. And the podcast was kind of born out of that because I met another mom and she was also interested in starting a podcast. And we were like, how can we have these conversations with one another? And that's where it all started.
That was a very idealistic goal to have as newlyweds, because as we know, for every introvert, God has you marry an extrovert. For every pack rat, you marry somebody who's a minimalist. For every early bird, you marry a night owl. So you both were on the same page. How many years ago was that?
11 years ago.
11 years ago. And how many kids ago was that? I mean, how many children have you had?
3 kids. Yep, we have 3 kids.
3 kids. Mm-hmm. So you've been able to continue to practice what you preach, even with new baby and new baby things and Christmas items and ornaments. Wow. So what was the first thing, as newlywed Diane did with her husband, what were the first things you implemented in that stage of life?
So I would say a lot of our minimalism or our intentional lifestyle just happened through, it was circumstantial, I would say, because my husband was wrapping up his first year of teaching. I was still in college. And so we were very frugal individuals that I had to prioritize what we wanted on our budget. And so if you don't have a lot of money coming in, you have to be even more intentional because you can't be as frivolous. I guess you can, and then you're not going to like where you end up. So I would say that it started through circumstance that we even more so started pursuing that. And like you said, yes, with babies, yes, with the Christmas tree thing, we have issues in other areas. But I would say that minimalism and living intentionally, it hasn't been hard, because I think once you get really clear with your goals and what your values are and what you want from your life, I don't know. We're very yin and yang, but we've always aligned in that way. And so, I mean, thank God, like, I really appreciate it, because it is hard when your spouse isn't on board with your pursuits. I think in that case, you just continue to live by example, and their things, even though they may overflow into your things, it's like, at least my space is clean. At least my desk is clear. At least my closet is decluttered. And so, yeah, praise be, we are on the same page with that. But I would say that it really was just circumstantial that we were intentionally on the same page there in the beginning.
Okay, so we're recording this in November, so the holiday season. Do you dread the holidays because of the gifting issue, or how do you keep it under control?
It's funny you asked that, because for some reason this year in particular, I have an 8-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 3-year-old, and I am so overwhelmed with what to get them. We usually just do like the need, want, wear, read. We might kind of mix that up a little bit, but I'm just like, you guys have everything you need. And people just overwhelm you with gifts on your birthdays despite me asking them not to. And so I think that once you have a relationship with people, you can kind of have those conversations. There's always going to be someone that their love language is gift, or they show their love through gifting. So I just graciously thank, and then we do what we will with the gift. But yeah, for some reason this year, personally, I'm finding it really tricky to get them toys, because I'm like, what more do you need? So I've had to be a little bit more thoughtful about what I want to actually get them for Christmas. But in regards to other people, like I said, I think if you're very clear with what your family dynamic is, that if you're in a relationship with someone, so your parents, your grandparents, aunt and uncles, they've seen us living this way, or they know that that's important to us. And so a lot of people will respect us, and they'll say, what is a list like for you? Send us an Amazon list. What do your kids really need? Could I take your kids to the movies and lunch or whatnot? So I think having those conversations before it gets to the end of November is really helpful in just setting the theme for the year, the same with birthdays, and just being very clear in your expectations. And I feel like as adults, especially, this is just outside of minimalism in general, but we should be able to clearly communicate what we need with one another. And I feel very certain about that. And it can be hard and it can be tricky, but I think that we muddy it up because we're not clear. And then we have to it just can spiral out of control if we're just not clear and upfront from the get-go. And there's a gracious way to be that, or to do that. But yeah, I feel like it's been helpful to just be honest.
I know my daughter, she has a 5 and 3-year-old, and she's been a minimalist. I mean, just from the day she was born, just easy like that, understood, excess overwhelms me and it gets on my nerves. So for her children, she will say to me, if I'm getting them anything, it stays at my house if it's a toy.
Yeah.
Because we live so close to each other, we're 10 minutes away. So, and those then end up being special. They call me Gabby because I talk a lot. So those are special Gabby toys and Gabby books. And so when we're cajoling them to come over, and they're here. I mean, one of them's here right now. I keep them often, but that way you go play. It's like having new toys. And I know that's not anything new under the sun, but it's a way for her to manage, because she doesn't want a bunch of, 15 new Barbies and all the pieces of the shoes that go with us. And, she had Polly Pockets when she was little. So I understand. Mm-hmm. So that was a way she does communicate that. I do know at birthday time, when her daughter wants to invite friends, and it's not a big party, but that's when sometimes they want to give a special gift for somebody. So I know that they run into that challenge there. And I know another thing for our family, I know for my own daughter, she doesn't want anything to unwrap under the tree, but she sure likes getting gift cards to Molly Maid Housekeeping, or to the man who can clean her car, or, services. Services are real important to people who want less. Have you noticed that?
Oh, absolutely. It's funny though. I'm quite the opposite. I feel like Christmas is my one time of year that I'm like, I want the frivolous gifts. I want the things that I wouldn't necessarily buy myself. So I feel like what we spend our money on are those things that you're mentioning. And then it's kind of nice to get a few things I wouldn't necessarily buy for myself, but that feel like a treat from my mom and dad. That feels good to me as someone that does pursue minimalism. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And they want to do that for you. Your parents do want to do that for you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I do, what you were talking about, the gift staying at your home, I think that's an excellent idea. And we've started doing that as well with with a few family members. Again, I think that you can be as clear as you want, and sometimes people are just not gonna,
that's right.
Yeah, they're not gonna follow through, but that's okay, because that's the way, again, they show their love.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, let's talk about the first thing. Someone's listening right now, and I'm not sure when we'll air this. It may be after the first of the year, which may be a perfect time to do it. Because that's, our New Year's resolutions. So what's the first thing you tell moms who come to you and go, Diane, I'm so overwhelmed, I don't know where to start. Where do we start?
Well, I would say don't start with the sentimental items first. That usually it becomes a nightmare, and then it becomes too overwhelming, and it's like, let's build momentum. So let's start small. Let's start in the bathroom. The bathroom typically is the smallest space in our house, and it doesn't have a ton of sentimental possessions in there.
Yeah.
And so I say, pull everything out. I used to clean houses in college, and I would see people's bathrooms, and I'm like, why do you have all this stuff on that I'm having to move to clean up your, not, I almost said the mantle, but the sink area. So pull all that stuff out. Yeah. Pull all that stuff out, pull things off the walls, get it very simple, because you usually start your day there, you end your day there, and you don't want the visual clutter to begin and end your days. At least I don't. And so once you can see how you can live with less, and then you continue to go throughout your house. Again, I would save baby clothes, the toys, things that maybe you've lost a parent or a loved one. Don't go through those things at the very beginning. Build that momentum. And then also, I would say you don't have to do it in a weekend. Commit to just, I'm going to do this for a little bit of time, maybe get that momentum with the bathroom, and then commit 15 minutes a day. That's how I've been doing it, because we've been so busy. I've just been still I'm like, okay, it's time to go back through my kids' clothing. It's time to go back through this hutch. It's time to go back through the pantry. And you're just 15 minutes and you can knock a lot out.
Yeah, timer does wonders. It motivates you, and it helps you set your own boundaries, thinking, okay, I'm not going to dilly-dally here and miss preparing dinner because I was so busy counting, Barbie hairbrushes, and you can move on to other things. So I think bathrooms are a great place to do it. I tell you, another thing to do is move. I moved a year ago, was in the same home for 24 years, raised my kids there, homeschooled my kids there. So homeschool, you get a lot of crap through the years of just education materials, pushed all that out. And so we had to scale down. And then you still bring too much when you move. And then we threw, so we had trash cans that we threw all that out. So that helped a lot, which is great for people in midlife to look forward to, is might move to your forever home after you've raised your kids and getting rid of it. So bathroom, we all have way too many samples of Estee Lauder or the La Mer cream thing that they give you when you're at the bougie department store. We all have too much of it. Just throw it out. Nobody cares. And it's probably not good for you. But bedrooms are another thing. Where do you start with the bedroom?
See, this is where I'm just an unusual person. If you went upstairs into our bedroom, you would think that no one really inhabits that space, because we have a bed. I do have a desk that's completely empty with a chair that I've never used that I probably should get rid of. But I just have a bed up in our bedroom space. I don't even have the walls decorated because we don't spend a lot of time up there, and I don't have anything that I love. I don't know how I want to decorate the space, so I'm not going to buy just to buy. I want to love something. Actually, I did just buy a mirror at World Market, and I haven't picked it up yet. But all that to say, with the bedroom, gosh, I would just evaluate each area of the room. And when you are decluttering with anything, with any space, you pull everything out. You need to assess what you have, take inventory. And I have never gotten rid of something that I regret, because you usually can replace it via a Facebook Marketplace or somehow for $20 or less if you really, really need it. So I think don't be afraid to, when you start to come across some of those sentimental things. Sentimentality is an emotion, and when people are purging items, it's not that you're purging that memory. That is a representation of the memory, but you get to keep that memory. So again, if you need to photograph it to remember, you're not getting rid of that. You're not getting rid of the person that gave you that. It's the item that is taking up the space, the weight that is actually more overwhelming than actually getting rid of the thing.
Here's some place that I really struggle. This is my drawer in my dressing area.
Okay.
All the implements. It takes a lot to get this hair to look good. So I've got this one. I've got the real hair dryer, and I'm showing different hair dryers. I've got the big round brush, the smaller round brush, and I try to go through there and pare down, but I always think, no, I really might use that
Yeah.
in a certain amount of time. So have you noticed that sometimes hair things are another thing that in the dressing area that just accumulates years worth of hot rollers and curling irons?
Well, that's another thing. It's kind of like keeping clothes that are too big or too small. Why are we keeping these things we're not using? And so I would rather have the things that I use that are easily accessible for me so I can be more productive to get ready. If you're using all those brushes and like multiple times a week and or even once a week, I have a thicker curling iron and I have a smaller curling iron. I don't use the thicker one as much, but I keep it because sometimes I like my hair to look that way. To me, that's not a problem because I'm actually using this. But for those sizes that are smaller that I no longer fit in, I just had to get rid of that because why do I want a reminder that I used to be smaller? I am 30 in my mid 30s. Like I am a mom of 3. I have a different lifestyle. I can't work out all the time anymore. And you know what? A size is just a ridiculous measure of our value. So get rid of the things that we don't use. And again, if you need to replace those things, ask for it for your birthday, ask for it for Christmas, replace on Facebook Marketplace. I'm very much into secondhand shopping and or just seeing, I don't need that anyways. I thought that I did, but I'm not using that. So I don't know.
Well, clothing is another area. When I moved into this home, again, I'd been in the other home for 24 years. I've lived this life of, because a long time MC of events. And so I always had clothes for that. And I just gave a lot of it away. If I'm it was kind of during COVID too, and we really weren't going anywhere to these things as I was paring down. We moved in 2021. But I remember when my cousin came to my house, she goes, "Where are all your clothes?" Because I used to have so much more. And I go, "Got rid of them all." She goes, "The long dress from 2010, and I go, "Got rid of it. Check, check, check." And I've never once looked and thought, "Wow, where is that long dress from 2010? I don't need it. Someone else can use it." And really, it's out of style. So how do you, and I've heard, I don't know if Joshua Becker said this, I think it was, and I'm sure you know this, but for every time you buy an item, maybe there's something you give away. So you keep the same amount of hangers.
Yes. Don't get more hangers. Keep the same amount of hangers and get rid of one thing to bring in another. And that's the same thing that I'll do. If I'm going to get something new, I will, honestly, I'll sell a few things on Facebook Marketplace to even pay for like maybe half of my new item. But I mentioned being the quality over quantity. That is an important value that we try to live by. I don't live by that as much with clothes. I love my clothes, but a lot of the abundance of clothes that I do keep are classic pieces that are not trendy. And I think the trends are coming and going so often. I know that Target, we used to have like 2 seasons, and now I think they have like over 20 like floor plans that they do each year. And so if we're constantly having to match that ever changing trend, how are we going to buy all those clothes? Marketers know what they're doing. That was what my degree was in prior to teaching. Anyways, they know what they're doing. That is their job to sell you. That is their job to make you feel like you need it, that you're not enough without it, that you won't be able to be like your neighbor without it. And so when we can be rational and be like, wait, I look good in all of these classic pieces that I can wear year after year. Again, if you're staying in pretty much the same sizes. So I think that, I don't know. I just think you have to get really honest with yourself about, again, your values, where your value comes from, what your value is to the others around you, and that my friends don't like me because of what clothes I'm wearing. They like me for me. And so that is something that helps me detach a little bit. Yeah, that's what helps me detach a little bit from feeling like I need all the new clothes and that I constantly have to keep up,
Well, social media has made that hard because we all feel like we are repeat fashion offenders because we'll wear something and they'll say, and then you don't wear it again for 6 months, but it was your profile pic. So you feel like every time someone sees you, you're in that outfit and you're like, no, I only wore it for my profile pic. I want to wear it again. So we call that Facebook outfit repeaters. My friend will say, I'm an outfit repeater. I'm a social media outfit repeater. Yeah. And because, here's what happens. And this is psychology of just humans, right? So you see Kim Kardashian on one of her episodes has a warehouse of clothing. I saw that. Warehouse, Diane, of clothing, year by year, size by size, and it's tucked away like it's hermetically sealed, See, I don't look at that and covet it. Maybe it's because I'm 100 years old and I think I don't want to take care of it. I don't want to maintain it, manage it. But it makes, I think, others go, oh, I want to be Kim Kardashian and have... To say she had thousands of pieces is an understatement. I mean, it is absolutely mind-boggling. And I think, like, one of the sisters has 20 Range Rovers and 12 Bentleys. I'm just, that's where I'm too practical. I'm like, why? I got one car. It works really well when I drive it. So it's also, I think, part of our wiring. And I don't think, I think your wiring is for less. My wiring is for less.
You know, I'm trying to, how do I say this as kindly as possible? You can look at that warehouse of things, but you can also look at their lives and the failed marriages and the all the stuff that they've gotten themselves into. And it's like, obviously that didn't bring you happiness. That didn't get you to where you wanted to be, you know? And so, yes, that's kind of nice. I love clothing. I'm like, I wish I had free access to Madewell at the mall, Yeah. But does that really long term? I don't know. Where is the value in that? And also, I don't want to create a museum in my home. I want to live in my home. I want to live in my clothes. And I don't know why we're doing this. It's just for what? For whose opinion? For some fleeting thought that some stranger has?
Yeah. Yeah, that's how I feel. It's, it just doesn't interest me. I'm not criticizing them. I just don't want that life. Like if I won the lottery tomorrow, I can tell you, I wouldn't have warehouses worth of clothing. Just, I don't want, and maybe that's it. I don't want anything else I have to wipe its nose, butt, or take care of. And clothing falls under that. Like, that's why a lot of people, and when their grandparents, they start, and this is great that people do it. I'm just not one of them. We had dogs growing up with our kids, but now that our kids are gone, people are like, are y'all going to get a puppy? And I go, oh, I don't want anyone else's poop to clean up. I did that. I did that with the dogs I had and with the humans I had. And now I want to go on a vacation and not have to wonder, what am I going to do with the dog? Though people listening right now are about to wreck their cars because they can't believe that is my philosophy on a dog. But I don't want to take care of anything else.
Yeah, it's a responsibility. And I feel the same way. I have young children and it is hard. Like getting a dog is another mouth to feed, another responsibility, it's just something to take care of.
And it's expensive. And I guess that's the other thing too. I don't want anything else that's going to cost me money. That's why at 60, I'm not having any more children. That's the reason. Oh, I also don't have any eggs left, but you get the point.
Sure.
Okay, well, talking about kids, because mine were homeschooled, I didn't have to walk this path, but I know my friends would say their kids come home every week, I guess, with the binder or folder of the 12 pieces of paper they drew of mommy, and then the 19 spelling tests they had. What do you do with all that?
So I do homeschool our first grade, or I'm sorry, she's in second grade now. I do homeschool her.
Okay.
My son goes to kindergarten. He brings home his folder every single day. If there's a really special piece, and at this point, I'm kind of dictating what the special pieces are. If he was older, I'd probably allow him some input. But I keep the really special pieces. Each of my kids have how big would I say? Maybe a 2-foot by 1-foot box in their rooms. Like Charlotte's is up in her closet and the boys are in the basement. And that is where all their special treasures are. And Charlotte and I will go through hers every so often. Do you still want this? Do you want to keep this? Or no, I want to move something in here. But the baby clothes that are very precious to me and or those pieces of artwork, those go in there. But I think that sometimes it's like a Band-Aid. You have to just rip it off and take those spelling tests and throw them away. Throw them in the recycling bin. And it's like, I'm not looking back. I'm not going to focus on that because, again, it's kind of like with the trends. If I have to keep all of this, there's not going to be any space left in this home. So rationally, I know I can't keep it all. So therefore, it's easier to just get rid of it and address it right then and there. And I also like living by if you can't do it if you can do it in 1 minute or less, you just do it right then and there so the clutter doesn't build in your home. And that's something like that. When I get Martin's folder, go through it right away, and then I don't have to worry about it at the end of the week, taking more time, feeling more sentimental. It just is address it right then and there and then move on.
Well, the good thing that you young whippersnappers have that we old people didn't is digital archiving. So
yeah,
if you wanted to, Diane, you could snap a photo of it and maybe keep a folder on your phone of,
yes,
the handprint turkey he does for the next 20 years.
Sure. No, and I do that. And I have on my phone folder and even on my computer folder, I have Charlotte the Artist. And so it is some of those special pieces that are too big to fit in that box. I have a folder in here. And then I was much better about this prior to the podcast kind of taking off. But I used to do Shutterfly books every single year, scrapbooks for us, digital scrapbooks.
Those are fabulous. And that's a great gift to give a grandparent.
Oh, I think so as well. I do that with a calendar for my parents. Oh my gosh, I have forgotten to start working on that. Yeah, I do a calendar with all the photos of the grandkids for the year.
Yeah, but I do that because you know what? Grandparents, and this is my grandchildren's great-grandparents, they don't want a bunch of stuff either because they have a house full, they're in their 80s and they have a house full of stuff. Those calendars are great, but I've seen people then compile their year's favorite photos and kind of keep like an encyclopedia set, and it's archived.
Yes. And that's what we had up until a couple of years ago when I fell off the bandwagon. Not the bandwagon, I just got behind. But that in the section of Charlotte the Artist, it was at the end of the book, and it was all of her artwork that was very special to her. And I had a little caption. And so therefore you're just condensing it and not having to keep all of that stuff. So that is a great tip.
See, that's your marketing brain in gear right now, because that is presenting it to a way that we want to buy whatever you're selling. So I think that's great. Sure. Okay, let's talk about exercise clothing. I always I just have a few pieces. I wash them, put them away. So at the gym, I'm in the same, wearing the same black clothes anywhere I go anyway. So what do you do about workout clothes?
So again, I do love clothes, and I have a lot of the same ones that I've had for the last several years. So I think depending on how often you're going to work out, assess how many how many pieces do I actually need? Because I also don't want to be doing laundry every moment of my life. So I think assess that, but also it's very curious to me that someone like Steve Jobs would wear the same exact outfit to work every day, has the most money in the world. And it's just wow. He knew what his goals were. He knew what he wanted. He didn't he didn't care. He just didn't care. And so it's why are we prioritizing these things of having to look great at the gym in a new outfit and always trendy? I don't know. The older I get, the more I'm just stay in your lane, stay in your lane. It doesn't matter. Yeah. This doesn't matter. Your friends matter, and your friends don't value your workout clothes. So I think that's where I've come with minimalism. It's been a lot more is the word introspective, just really evaluating my motive and my drive of why I do the things. And then it's a lot easier to say no.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk about cooking then, and cooking essentials, cooking accoutrement, the small pots and pans that we never use, but we use once a year. How do you handle that?
So with some of that stuff, I just will borrow it from my parents. So again, it's am I benefiting from minimalism because I'm around these maximalists? But we're not huge into cooking, but we do have a crock pot. We do have a Vitamix. We do have, oh my gosh, an air fryer. We just got an air fryer at the beginning of the year, and it's been life-changing. Yeah. We use all those things. So again, I'm not opposed to having these things. I know Marie Kondo lives by, what is it that it sparks joy. If it sparks joy, keep it. If not, get rid of it. But my air fryer does spark joy in me, but my hammer doesn't. And I have to have a hammer because sometimes I might need to use the hammer. Right. Yeah.
That is a great way to illustrate that. Because I am a cook, a longtime cook. I've taught cooking classes, I really love it. But I don't have all the cooking toys. People are surprised that I don't have the Instant Pot. I had it and got rid of it because it took up too much space. I don't have a crock pot because you know what? I have an oven that I can pot it down, but I'm a real cook, so I know what I'm looking for. If you're not a real cook, crock pot is a way to go, or Instant Pot because it cuts some corners. But I even have a convection oven, and if you elevate something at a convection oven, it's like an air fryer because it's a fan that circulates. So, but this is, I say all this because I almost have to defend myself when people say, so do you use the crock pot? Do you use the Instant Pot? Do you use the air fryer? I go, don't have any of them. And we are still healthy and upright and members of society.
I was just going to say, the thing about that is it's seasonal as well. So right now the crock pot is helpful to us because we have all these kids we're juggling and they're little and it saves us time. Yeah. Whereas I hope to one day have some more time that I can get into the kitchen. I really, really want that at some point, but seasonally it's not going to work right now for our schedule. And it's kind of the same thing with kids bringing in some of these horrendous toys that they have on the market these days. I try very hard to sway my children away from those things, but also they have spaces in their rooms. It's like you can fill this much with what you want. So for example, my daughter's just had a birthday. We'll get back to the cookware, by the way. My daughter just had a birthday. My aunts took her to Target, let her pick out a few things. And it's like, you can get the neon colored stuffy, you can get whatever you need to get, but you only have this amount of space to fill it up. So we're going to have to get rid of something else. But also one day in my life, I know that I'm going to miss that neon stuffy, and that I'm going to have this empty, neutral house that my husband and I like, and I'm going to be kind of sad that that's not there. Grateful it's not there, but also sad. No, you're like, no.
No, I think I'm living it. I think you're going to be fine.
Yeah, but there is like, maybe that is like, you know what I'm saying? You feel it. You feel it. Like it's nice to live in your neutral, because I mean, most of my house is not a kid's space. The kids' stuff is in their rooms. But yeah, I'm just like, if this makes them happy in this season, I'm okay with that. We just don't need an abundance. One in, one out rule. So it's the same with cookware. If it's a season for it, have it. I know a lot of moms swear by the Instant Pot. I don't need that because I have things that do that kind of thing for me. So yeah. What are your needs?
Yes, I understand. In cookware, though, there's another whole, chapter of cookware that people use that take a lot of space, and I don't have an interest in. That's bakeware. Because I'm an entree cook, whereas I'm cooking the main dish. I'm not you don't want me bringing the dessert because I'm so busy talking. I can't remember if I already did a cup of sugar or if I've done 2 cups of sugar. That's for somebody who's very studious and measures things and all that. But that is a whole nother pile of stuff. Bundt pans are this big. Baking pans are this big. Cookie sheets or baking sheets are this big, and they're bulky. And then if you have, because one time I did go through a phase where I was going to start piping desserts, because I did bake more when my kids were younger. But then you have to have all the pipeware and the bags and the tips that I gave it away and said, y'all can have it.
Yeah. No, I think with any of these categories that you're giving me, you need to pull, again, everything out that's in your kitchen. When you go through to your kitchen, we have a few different spaces, and I'm pulling everything out of there and saying, again, what is my inventory? What do I actually use? And being realistic. Don't lie to yourself. Because if you've had a pretty consistent pattern as an adult who bakes, then maybe don't get rid of that baking stuff that you're using.
Yes. But
keeping it for the what ifs of the future you, I would become that future you before you start going down that path,
I'm writing that down. What if of the future you? I love that, because that is how people defend what they've accumulated. Or I'll hear them say, well, because I might need this blue and white gingham skirt for something, because I might be invited to a Daisy May contest in the next 70 years, and they keep it. I'm like, you're not. And Daisy May's been gone a long time. So it is looking at the here and now and deciding, is it worth it? And again, this is what I say. Put your house on the market, sell, and then when you start boxing it up, then you almost have resentment that you kept the blue and white gingham skirt because you thought you were going to be Daisy May someday. You're not.
No, 100%. Yes, I think that, again, all of that comes back to just knowing ourselves and what we want moving forward. And I just don't want to live thinking, I'm going to get back into this like really unmanageable size of pants that I once was desperate to fit into. It's like, maybe one day I will, but that's not who I am right now. And my patterns of behavior don't show me that that's going to happen anytime soon. And so why am I keeping this? I have to look at it. I have to maintain it. It's a weight that is maybe even subconscious. Right. But I don't want to. Yes. I don't want to deal with that. I want to take care of what I like and what works for us.
And unless it's an haute couture Oscar de la Renta that was made specifically for you, it's going to be out of style, and you're not going to want it when you get back to your size 2 skinny jeans or what. I mean, I know. We all know that. We hold on to these things, and then when we do pull them out, they really don't look good. And because here's the other thing you people don't understand, that you men listening, or you young girls, you have babies, and yes, you might be 135 pounds again and a size 4, but it doesn't, the parts have moved. And your rib cage is bigger. Your hips are wider. And you know what? It's great. Am I glad I did it every day? It was worth every minute of the 5 pounds that I've fussed about having on too much weight in my 30s or 40s. It's absolutely worth it. But I'm just saying, move on. Nothing to see here, folks. Move on.
Yeah, there's no going back.
Okay,
there's only going forward.
Yeah, that's right. Now, tell me about your podcast. What is it? Tell me what you all talk about, because I've just followed your social media and I love it. And then when I saw the name of your podcast, Minimalist Mom, I was like, I'm on board. So, but tell me what you kind of break down.
Yes. So the podcast started in 2016. I started with another girl from, I don't know if you've heard of MOPS. It's a mom's group, but she was at MOPS, and I saw she wanted to start a podcast, and I wanted to start a podcast.
Wait, for people listening, mother of preschoolers, right?
I think so. Yeah.
MOPS. Preschool. Something. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
So this is when I had my first child, and I saw she wanted to start a podcast. I did too. We're like, what could we talk about? Let's meet for drinks. What can we brainstorm? And she was living in like 3,500 square feet at the time. I was living in 800, but we still had this pursuit of minimalism. And we were like, this is crazy. I bet we can have some really dynamic conversations. And so then she stepped away, I want to say in 2018, to take another job. And I had another baby, and I just kind of started putting more effort into it. I was like, I wonder what this could be. And so I made it more interview based, reached out to some bigger names, and they said yes. And I couldn't believe it, because I was like, I'm a no one and you're saying yes. And so from there, minimalism was trendy. And I think, yes, I've been absolutely consistent. I have released an episode every week, if not some weeks too, for the past 4 or 5 years. But I've also... I would say it's a little bit of luck as well. And I mean, this is a one-woman show. I don't have anyone working for me. It's been, it's starting to get a little bit unmanageable with my minimalist lifestyle. I'm not always practicing what I preach in regards to my mental clutter that I have. But yeah, I mean, as long as people are willing to bring on how they live intentionally to my show and to encourage others, I'm going to keep doing it.
Well, one thing I noticed about Joshua Becker, and I asked him, and I kind of knew we ask questions where you kind of know the answer to, and I feel the same way about you. But I asked him, I said, are you a person of faith? And he came from, I think he was pastor of a church.
I'm pretty sure he was, yeah.
Yeah. And same thing with you. I just assume by your nomenclature, what you're saying, that you are a person of faith. And so these are biblical principles.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, I try to... I definitely have episodes that are, gosh, how do I phrase it? I am a Christian myself, but I don't ever want someone to think that I'm preaching to them and to discredit me and think that it only is for Christians, because I think this lifestyle will help anyone of any faith. However, I think you're absolutely right. When we really get real, about... we can't take our treasures with us. I mean, scripture says that, like, our treasures are built in heaven. They're not built here where moth and dust will eat away. And so I think that when we are very clear about our possessions are meaningless in the grand scale of scheme of things, it's easier to kind of detach from them. But also, I keep talking about your value and where does your value lie. And I think that when we are pleasing man, like the Kardashians. Again, I think that they say they're people of faith, but I would say that it's easy to get wrapped up in pleasing one another, and it just is, it's not very fruitful. Like, we just find ourselves disappointed at the end of the day alone with these mausoleums of stuff, these museums of stuff. I think mausoleum,
right.
Museum.
No,
yeah.
Right. No, I totally see that. And, I mean, it's the whole audience of one. If you look at your relationship with the Lord as an audience of one, because the Bible says, are we pleasing man or are we pleasing God? If I'm still pleasing man, I'm not a bondservant of Christ, is what it says in Galatians. So that's kind of the philosophy of detaching yourself from the social media part or the accolades and the cheers of people is, you know what, I'm doing this isn't popular, but we're homeschooling or we're driving one car or whatever you choose to do to exhibit a minimalist lifestyle is totally up to you, which that's what I love. And it also comes down to being good stewards financially. Yeah. Because you're not buying, 15 washers to have at home like you're on an episode of Hoarders, that you have the one washer and dryer or whatever it is. And again, I'm not judging anybody. I don't care what anybody does. I'm just saying I know that when you cut away the clutter, there's a lot, the anvil that's over your head of your life and worrying about things, it lifts. When you have less stuff, those things lift.
Yes. No, that's so true. I mean, yeah, I just, you have to be realistic with yourself and know yourself. I think that's a huge way to move forward in minimalism. And like you said, it's going to look different for every single person. I'm not a baker, so I'm not going to own a lot of bakeware. I do love clothes, so I try to buy quality over quantity and do the one in, one out. And I make mistakes. And as I said, I'm not fully living out my minimalist mentality with my mindset and my schedule right now. I hope to get more to a place of balance here in the new year. But also, even outside of Christianity, I'm not a Buddhist, but I've read a lot of Buddhist or even a Stoic philosophy from Marcus Aurelius. And it's just like, this life is so short, and what are we prioritizing? And really, some of the stuff just takes away from the things that are most important. And when you get to your death, I mean, it's, number one, we're not guaranteed tomorrow, but also when we are near the end, we're not going to be like, oh, I'm so glad I had all this house full of stuff, but I was not close with my family, or I wasn't pursuing these other goals that I had. I don't know. You got to be honest with yourself. It just comes back to that. Yeah. No, without sounding like a broken record.
Now, tell me, when are you going to write a book? Do you have a publisher yet?
So I did write a book, and it was out in 2021. I'm contemplating.
Well, I'm sorry, I didn't know. What's it called?
No, it's okay. It's called Minimalist Moms Living and Parenting with Simplicity. And you probably didn't know, because as I said, this is all really shocking to me that this has taken off. And I still feel kind of like a deer in headlights some days. Like, I don't know how to manage all of this. So I wasn't great at promoting it because I just felt like really embarrassed. But it actually, to toot my own horn on your podcast, I think it's very well written for my first book. I am an English major. I graduated from Ohio State with a degree in English. So I feel like it was
Ohio State.
The Ohio State University. Yeah. But yeah, I'm contemplating writing something new with similar themes that we've been talking about. So stay tuned. I just have to get some ideas brainstormed.
That's where your editor comes in, though, right? And helps you set the goals. These are the chapters, or this is kind of the layout. Because one thing about a minimalist life, and also you're talking about, it's our thinking and our thoughts. When someone gives me, because I'm a journalist, so I was always given a deadline, this is what I need by this time. So once I get that target, then I push all the other things away, and it helps declutter even my brain. If I have an assignment, if I have a deadline, nothing else, I can't do anything else. I don't put it off. I'm not a procrastinator, because I'm focused on that, but it does help kind of clear the clutter in my brain. So that's maybe all you need. You just need an editor to call you and go, girl, I need a manuscript done by April 15th. I need 30,000 words, and then you'll kick into high gear.
Yeah, no, that's very true. Accountability is huge, but I think it's finding the right person to work with and having something unique to say, because I mean, it is, I don't want to say it's an oversaturated market of thought with minimalism, but as I said, minimalism is very trendy, and I don't want to put something out there that I'm not proud of, that I feel like is redundant. So
I completely understand.
Yeah.
I completely
so that's where
understand that. Yeah, I completely understand that. Okay, speaking of books then, that's one thing. I pared down a lot of books, and that's one regret some people have. I throw away the jacket cover, for one thing, if I do have a book. And then I often get rid of them because once I read them, I don't need them here. Am I wrong to think that way?
I mean, some people like to have a home library. I have been pulling some books from my parents' house that I read as a child for my daughter to read, and I really like that we have those around. But
that's sweet.
I typically don't keep fiction books. I'll keep nonfiction because sometimes I will return to them. But I don't mind having a library, and I think the useful information is nice to have a tangible copy of, where it's not as, if the world went blank, we wouldn't have our phones, but we would have these books. So I'm not opposed to knowledge found in books and having libraries. But again, if it's something that's starting to overwhelm your eyes, overwhelm your spaces, or you just feel like you spent money on it, so hey, I spent $20 on this book, I don't want to get rid of it, give it to a friend. Sell it on Facebook Marketplace for $5 or something like that. Go get yourself a coffee. Be creative with how you can gift it to someone. But yeah, just to keep it seems silly to me.
Well, this from the woman who all of my books are on right here. It's in my hand. I have Audible, or I go to the local library. Our local library has so many books you can borrow.
Big fan of
their
the library.
service. So I read it, and they take it back. You don't even have to take it back to the library when you get it through their digital service. It's returned, and then I don't have it hanging over my head. So, okay, so let's wrap things up. Your podcast is Minimalist Mom, right?
Yep, the Minimalist Moms podcast.
And then I will put that in the show notes along with your social media handle and your book you wrote. And the fact that you're kind of an early adopter. In 2016, there weren't the trillions of podcasts we have now, but it was starting to ramp up. That's when I started intermittent fasting. And so that's how I got all my education in 2017, actually, of intermittent fasting. Those were my first podcasts. So, and in fact, intermittent fasting has a similar approach about food intake. It's a minimalist food intake approach in that if I don't need it, I'm not going to eat it.
Yeah. No, I did that for a while after I had my third baby, and it was very helpful. And again, it's something that you're right. We have such an abundance of food these days that when we are actually clear with what our bodies need, it's very sad how much overwhelm and how much we don't need.
Yes, we are a country measured by excess.
100%.
Great job today. Good luck to you. And for those of you listening and not watching this, she's in her car.
I am.
Because that's where she has to record this to be away from 3 kids saying, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." Thank you so much. Of course, we're at the beginning of a big holiday season, so happy holidays, Merry Christmas, all the things. And you keep on keeping on. You keep preaching the good words you do. You're doing a great job.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for listening to the Lisa Fisher Said podcast. Be sure to hit subscribe and download all the episodes and leave a review, won't you? The Lisa Fisher Said podcast is produced by ClantonCreative.com.